correspondent, is in New York. So what's the big surprise that our president promised us on health care, Brad Mielke?
Difficult sometimes in these situations to tell what the president's talking about, but in this case, it seems like he was saying that surprise might be the victory. You know, we saw a surprise with the House bill that went through a similar sort of iteration. I think the president seemed to be signaling that he's still very confident that you could have that turnaround, you could bring enough people to the table, although at this point, just getting this passed would be a surprise, so he's right there.
Yeah, where are we with this? You're hearing all sorts of things. They're going to bring it back. Mitch McConnell says it's dead, now it's back, and they had the meeting at the White House. Where are we with all this?
Yeah, I mean, Mitch McConnell kind of sped up the timeline here. It is now saying he wants a revised bill not at the end of next week. He wants a revised bill with new language tomorrow that senators can then go home with over the 4th of July recess and go over and decide, you know, is this something I can say yes to? And he's trying to solicit ideas from all these different holdouts over the next 24 hours or so. And so you've still got 9 GOP holdouts. They need at least 7 of those, and that's not even counting people who are still kind of on the fence, still kind of maybes. And it's still kind of unclear what people want, what it will take to get people to yes, and I guess that's part of the process that he's weighing right now.
So oh boy, I had a really good question, and then I blew it. Brad Mielke, in terms of the senators who are sort of holding out, there's a sense that if they're given opioid money from Ohio and West Virginia and some of these other states that are affected by the opioid, they might be able to bring them over to a yes. So how much of this opposition is really an opposition, and how much of it is just regular politics?
Is just sort of holding out for more.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia was seeking $45 billion to fight the opioid epidemic sweeping across many states, including her own. Well, guess what? It looks like there's going to be $45 billion more in this bill for opioid addiction. Now, we don't know that means she says yes to this bill. That's the big question, are these sort of add-ons enough to bring people over? Is Susan Collins married to the idea of if you defund Planned Parenthood, I'm gone, or is there some sort of compromise that can be reached? It's been interesting to watch these senators because those on the right of this bill have been pretty clear about what they want. Ted Cruz is pretty adamant in just saying get rid of states having to play into this essential benefits stuff. If you can opt out of that, then I'm on board. Rand Paul says if you get rid of tax credits that are supposed to take the place of these subsidies, then I'm on board. Now that seems like a big ask, but at least he's clear. The moderates, when they basically say this does a lot of damage to people on Medicaid, I think the question for Mitch McConnell is, okay, well, what do you want? Is scaling it back a couple $100 billion enough, or is this just a more fundamental issue? And we still don't have an answer on that.
Brad Mielke, there's a poll in USA Today that shows these numbers of support in the country are plummeting for this health care bill. Republicans aren't, we have Senator Blunt on the show next hour, but it doesn't seem like a whole lot of them are rushing to cameras and to newspapers to tell them how great this new health care bill is.
Yeah, USA Today, I think their poll had it around 12% approval for this Senate bill. I mean, that's the worst number we've seen. Fox News in a poll had it around 27%, but it was still vastly outweighed by people that already disapprove of this bill. In fact, in that same Fox News poll, 52% of Americans are in favor of the Affordable Care Act right now. So if you just look at those simple numbers side by side on the same poll, that really shows what an uphill battle the Senate bill has. If you're going to sway public opinion, first of all, you're going to have to get all your senators on board, and then you're actually going to have to sell the thing. And I don't know if a week or however long Mitch McConnell is looking for here is enough to do that.
So also McConnell has alluded to the fact that if this doesn't get done, they might have to cut a deal with, heaven forbid, Democrats and just fix some of the problems with the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, the Plan B is apparently the B word. It's bipartisanship, and it's funny to hear Mitch McConnell use that as a threat, right, rather than sort of an opportunity. He's basically saying, listen, Republicans, if we don't get together, I'm going to have to go to Chuck Schumer, hat in hand, and we're going to have to work on sort of the health care system as is. And what he's essentially saying there is, I'm going to hold some of you accountable for keeping Obamacare in place, and the rest of the country is going to hold you accountable for keeping Obamacare in place, because unlike the president, who has said he would consider letting the Affordable Care Act kind of crash and burn as premiums continue to rise, some of these senators are openly saying we can't let that happen. That they're, even if it's just piecemeal legislation, smaller scale, less ambitious, something's going to have to be done, and it's going to have to be done quickly. I mean, we're going to find out, you'd think, in a matter of weeks, sort of how they end up pursuing this.
And what's most interesting of all is that Obamacare is probably working best in the state of Kentucky, Mitch McConnell's home state.
Exactly, where it is perhaps not popular by name as Obamacare, but certainly Medicaid expansion and some of these programs. A lot of the issues that you're hearing about in states like Kentucky, like West Virginia, that voted for Donald Trump as president. You see very real worry on some local politicians and local advocates there for health care, and a lot of them say it's certainly not working perfectly right now, but I think they're quite nervous about overhauling the entire thing from scratch.
Brad, going forward, next week, 2 weeks, what are you looking for to see this go one way or the other?
Well, I think first of all is whether we see the same kind of turnaround that we saw in the House. I mean, I would not necessarily be shocked if we end up seeing a similar story play out. You make a deal to sort of entice some conservatives. You rely on moderates being wary of becoming those holdouts that kept the entire Republican Party against them, and you end up getting some sort of compromise. The question will be, can these holdouts actually sort of band together and articulate what they want? If they can't, then I think it becomes just sort of about getting them one by one, offering them something. And so whether we see that, whether we see sort of a team strategy by people like Susan Collins, et cetera, that'll be what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Remember what happened to Nebraska Senator Ben Nelson with the Cornhusker kickback and how they used that against him in the next election after that. So we'll stay tuned. Brad Melke, ABC News correspondent in New York. Thanks, Brad.